Hello friends, yeah, welcome back. Let's look at this question which requires from us the application of what we've learned on determination of elasticity of supply. The question 1, the initial price of orange was 16 Ghana cedis and quantity sold was 50, and as price dropped to 10 Ghana cedis, quantity sold decreased to 28 oranges. Find the price elasticity of supply, and the second is interpret the coefficients of elasticity. So how do we find the price elasticity of supply? Let's note our formula down. Price elasticity of supply is a change in quantity supplied over change in price times the initial price divided by the initial quantity supplied. From the question, what is the new quantity supplied? The new quantity supplied is 28. So we have it here. What's the initial quantity supplied? It is 50. We have it here, QS1. Then what is the new price? The new price is 10. We have it here, P2, 10. And what is the initial price? The initial price is 16. We have it here. So we can put all these into the formula. Q2 minus Q1 is 28 minus 50, and P2 minus P1 is 10 minus 16 times the P1 is 16 all over Q1 is 50. So we have our answer 3.99. How do we interpret the results? Now this is the interpretation. Because this is greater than 1, 3.99 is greater than 1, the price elasticity of supply coefficient of 3.99 shows that supply is fairly elastic. It's fairly elastic. Great. So if you really understand, I want you to try your hand on this question. And let's see how it goes. Let's look at factors affecting elasticity of supply. There are some factors that determine whether a commodity will be fairly elastic, inelastic, perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, or unitary elastic. The first is durability or nature of the commodity. There are some commodities that are very perishable. If you keep it for just 2 days, it will go bad. Such commodities, if you are a supplier and you go to the market and the price has decreased, normally when price decreases you don't want to sell more, but you have no option than to give them out. So for such commodities, change in price will result in a less change or a less percentage change in quantity supplied. And when a change in price results in a less percentage change in quantity supplied, then such a commodity has an inelastic supply. On the other hand, if the commodity is a very durable commodity that can be kept for long, when you go to the market and the price has dropped, you even decide to you decide to hold the commodity till price increases. So your supply would decrease by a larger percentage or a greater percentage. And if a decrease in price results in a greater percentage decrease in quantity supplied, then such a commodity is fairly elastic. So the nature of the commodity or the durability of the commodity is very important. The second is time. If you go to the market and the price of a commodity you sell has increased, you would want to sell more. You want to sell as many as possible. But if the time period is very short, you may not be able to produce as many as you want to sell. So though price has increased, your supply will increase by a lesser percentage. So if the time period is a short time period, your price elasticity of supply is fairly inelastic. On the other hand, if it is a long time period or what we call long run, then when you realize an increase in price, because you have enough time to produce as many as you can, you produce more to supply. So the increase in price will precipitate a greater percentage increase in quantity supplied. In that case, your supply is fairly elastic. The next factor that affects elasticity of supply we want to talk about is availability of storage facilities. If your goods or the services you are rendering, in this case I'll call it commodity, if your commodity can, if you have storage facilities and you can store your commodities, when price decreases you hold them, you store them till price increases, because a decrease in price will reduce your profit margin. So if storage facilities are available, a decrease in price will result in a greater percentage decrease in quantity supplied. In that case, supply is fairly elastic, and the vice versa also happens. If there are no storage facilities and there's a decrease in price, you have no option than to keep the goods out for sale, because your goods might perish, and in that case your supply will be fairly inelastic. The next is availability of inputs. When price increases, you always have to combine inputs to produce an output in order to supply. So if price increases and the market look good, but you don't have inputs available, you might not be able to produce as many as you want. So in that case, supply is fairly inelastic. But if storage facilities, if inputs are available, you can produce and supply as many as you can. So the increase in price will precipitate a greater percentage increase in quantity supplied. In that case, your supply will be fairly elastic. The next is technology. Now, technology can make you produce so many of your products within a very short period of time. So if the technology you are using is advanced, then an increase in price will precipitate a greater percentage increase in quantity supplied. In that case, supply will be fairly elastic. A crude technology will have a fairly inelastic supply, because you cannot produce enough even though price has increased. The next is number of markets. If there are so many markets in your what you do, there are so many markets. What happens? An increase in price will result in a greater percentage increase in quantity supplied, because all the suppliers will increase their quantity supplied. So the market will have so many of the products because price has increased. On the other hand, if there is just a small market or few suppliers, an increase in price will result in a lesser percentage increase in quantity supplied, because there are few sellers in the market. Right. So the next is barriers to entry. Barriers to entry. If you are able to put barriers to entry into the market, then an increase in price, you can even sometimes control the price. For instance, if you are a cocoa farmer and you have some kind of power to restrict people from producing cocoa, there are some commodities that cannot be produced by everybody, because there are only a few people who have the technology to produce such commodities. So if there are barriers you can put to restrict entry, what happens is that when price decreases, you decide not to sell. No one can also sell, because you have placed barriers, you have put barriers to entry. So in that case, a decrease in price will result in a greater percentage decrease in quantity supplied, and your supply will be fairly elastic. But if there are no barriers to entry, the elasticity cannot really be determined by you. So an increase in price will result in many people entering into the market to produce a greater percentage. So that in that case also, if there are no barriers to entry, supply will be fairly elastic by an increase in price. What about a decrease in price? In the moment there is a decrease in price, all those who are operating in the market, they might even leave or something, right? The last thing is cost of production. If it is very expensive to produce the commodity, then even an increase in price will not result in a greater percentage increase in quantity demanded and quantity supplied, because it's too expensive to produce. So the higher the cost of production, the lower the elasticity. If the cost of production is high, then supply will be fairly inelastic, and vice versa. We'll pause here and continue in the next slide. Thank you.